All right, so last week we began our series that I'm calling Wisdom for the Ages, um, which is just basically a study from the book of Ecclesiastes. Uh, who remembers anything that we talked about last week? All right, very good. So you got some keywords to pay attention to. And as I mentioned then, it's not a complete list, right? But what are some of those keywords? Okay, so slower, right? So vanity is one. And what is the value of the word vanity in the book of Ecclesiastes? What? Well, okay, or meaningless. What's the value of it?
I don't know if it's what you're looking for, but it's basically how everything in this world is described.
Yeah, okay, very good. So how everything in this world is described. So when I ask the question like, what's the value of this, right? It's because words mean, and many of you have already been a part of these studies with me, but words mean different things in different books, right? They have different roles in different books. And the word vanity in this book, or meaningless, isn't just a casual word that's in one verse, right? It's throughout the book, and it's throughout the book because ultimately his conclusion is all of our pursuits in this life are meaningless, right? They're meaningless, with the exception, as we will finish this month up with the exception of our service to God. Okay, everything that you go and do, right? So it's super important, right? It's a super important word because it's part of the grand conclusion of the book. Now, so you mentioned vanity or meaningless. What are some of the other keywords? Wisdom. Yeah. Okay. So let's do third and then second. When he talks about under the sun, what is that talking about?
Everything. I mean, Solomon is trying to search everything he can do under the sun. I mean, wealth, all the enjoyment he can have, but the conclusion is still meaningless. It doesn't mean anything.
Right. So this idea of under the, I'm sorry, go ahead. Yes.
I think that it's like on this earth.
Yeah, on this earth, during this life, in this existence, in this reality. Yes. And so again, Daisy, you're spot on. Like for people who try to understand this book, but do not understand that this is if you will, it's an account, right? It's a report back with his conclusions after having experienced everything he can go out and experience, right? So let's pick on Denise for a second. Okay, so often when Norman travels, Denise is with him, right? And then when she doesn't get to go, then she's mad at him and there's issues and they have to have counseling, brother, sister counseling. Okay, right? But isn't it very common for young people to want to travel? Right? They want to see the world. They want to experience the world. It's sort of this trendy thing with Ivy League schools, and I forget there's a fancy term for it, but you'll get accepted like at Harvard or Yale, but they don't want you to come right out of high school. They want you to take a year, and there's a name for this, but they want you to take a year, and it's basically go live and experience life or whatever. Like don't worry, you got your spot in the school, but go take a year and do some other things before you come and lock yourself into studies. Right? Like, man, there's so much out there to explore. And Solomon would say, I did it, yes, to the greatest extent somebody can go do that. And he would say, here's my conclusion. It's meaningless, right? It's meaningless. And I don't know if you've, been out of this country or if you've just been in multiple places within this country, but isn't it sort of interesting how like a city somewhere far away from here will look a lot like a city around here, right? It's like there's just these things, and you know, my experience going to the Philippines was so hilarious because admittedly, and this is possibly a little sinful, but I'll say it anyways, I had some anxiety about going over there, right? Like, I don't know if you remember, but like I did this intermittent fasting thing because I knew I was going to be on a plane forever and I didn't know what food was going to be served. And I thought, like, dude, if there's some walking octopus on this Korean flight or something, and I'm not eating it, right? So, you know what I mean? Like, you never know. I have no idea what something might be looking back at me, whatever. You know, it's Korean Air. Who knew? Okay. But so I had no idea. So I prepared myself to go many, many hours without eating. Does that make sense? Right? Like I prepared myself for that. I also prepared myself like to get off the plane and to not understand anything around me. Right? It's like okay, there's all this writing and whatever, and then you think, well, you could just ask somebody. But I prepared myself to not be able to talk to anybody. You know, it's like, hey, can you help? Like, I don't understand you. But my experience was the complete opposite. So much of what was around me was in English, and you could hear English being spoken. And then I remember the first breakfast I had after the next morning I got there, and I go into this place, and the menu's in English and whatever. It was like I felt so like, okay, this is easy. You know what I mean? Okay, but I say that to say that's somewhat of our experience in a lot of ways, where you think everybody or everything's going to be so different, and it's not, right? So we go and we want to explore, and there's some uniqueness around the world, but yet Solomon would say, it's all sort of meaningless, right? And then obviously wisdom's one of those key words. The opposite of that, foolishness or folly, is one of these key words. Toil, which is one of the things we're going to talk about today. So awesome. So let's. I feel a little rushed because there's a lot for us to get into. Today's Bible class is going to be focused in on this word toil. Okay, so we're going to look at this word toil. And then the sermon is going to be focused on riches. And I'm combining these two things in the same Sunday because they go hand in hand. There's this incredible, like when you go to chapter 4, by the way, Ecclesiastes chapter 4. When you pull all of this book together, you get this true insight, which is to keep your life in balance. Okay, to keep your life in balance. So as we warm up to this conversation about toil and riches and the relationship between the two, I want us just to think about that. What are the types of things in our life that we tend to get out of balance about? Does that make sense? What are the types of things that we tend to get out of balance about in our life?
Time management.
That you have no control over, like illness. It gets you off balance.
Oh yeah. Okay. So one of the things, and I'm going to take what you said. So yeah, when there's a sickness, we get like it throws our life out of balance, and in part because do we not get really reliant on routine? Right? Like my life is like this, boom, boom. I get up at this time, I do this. And then when there's a sickness or something else, then it's like it throws your routine off, right? So yeah, we can watch me on this, we can get really addicted to our routine, can't we? Right? Okay, excellent. And I think I heard somebody here on Zoom, which tells me we're not turned up.
Yeah, I had said time.
Okay, give me more words.
So like our time management, sometimes we just try to fit so much in our schedule that we end up failing at everything.
Oh yeah, okay, excellent, right? And that, ding ding ding, didn't pay Renee for that, but that really fits in with what we're going to talk about with our toil, because we just try to cram so much. And I'm just going to quickly say this, and then we'll jump into the verses. But one of the things that I like to do mentally for me, and I, maybe this is a little self-serving, but I think it fits into the course of the class, is I'm asked at work on a regular basis. I'm asked at home on a semi-regular basis. So what do you have to do today? And I will often answer this way: I have many things to do. What all will get done, I don't know. Right? And that I share verbally because that's how my mindset is internally, because you create this incredible amount of pressure when you feel like you have to get everything done today. And here's what you find: no matter what you get done today, there's still more to get done tomorrow. The other thing that you'll find is the faster you get everything done today, just the quicker you get to the next new list of things to do, right? So we have in our minds this idea that if I just kill it today, tomorrow's going to be absolutely nothing. And then you wake up and then there's a whole new set of chores, right? So yeah, Renee, we try to cram, lots and lots of things into our day, and using Renee's words, and we fail. Like, we fail to do all those things in part because we often give ourselves more to do than really is possible to do. So Ecclesiastes chapter 4, one other thing that I didn't really get into last week that you'll see as we deal with today's study is Ecclesiastes is this interesting book because there are, okay, thanks, sorry. We're letting iPhone in. If it was a Droid, it would not have been let in, but anyway, just kidding. Joe, get it. Anyway, okay, but the book of Ecclesiastes is really interesting because there's like narrative section, meaning there's a part of this that you need to read, like this whole section, and then there's other parts of it that you can really just sort of zero in on one verse because this one verse has got this key piece to it. And so there's this combination of ways that you can look at the book, which is why we're taking it in a real topical fashion, because it's probably the easiest way to marry those two. Well, with that being said, if someone will read just verse 4, chapter 4 and verse 4.
And I saw that the toil and the achievements spring from one person's envy of another. This too is meaningless and chasing after the wind.
All right. So, again, here we got something else. I'm not even good at doing one thing, much less two things. Next week, Denise, this will be your job. Okay, you just sit there and you just admit people. Okay, all right. Verse 4, Ecclesiastes 4:4. When you read that, what comes to your mind? Okay, Isabel and Carolyn both said the same thing. Keeping up with the Joneses. Now, for people like John Paul, what does that mean when you say keeping up with the Joneses? Striving to compete with somebody, right? So this phrase, keeping up with the Joneses, has based in it the idea that you have these neighbors and they're the Joneses, and like you got a new car, right? And it was an XL, but they got the new car and it was an XLT. And so then you take your car back and you're like, I need an XLT plus one, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, but that's the idea, right? It's this thing that you were fine with what you were doing until you saw somebody who had more. Yes? Now, let me ask you this. With modern conveniences with regards to technology, are we more tempted in that direction or less tempted in that direction? We're more tempted. Why? That's true. Yes. Why are we even more tempted to keep up with the Joneses now? What?
Everything's getting better.
Well, okay, everything's getting better, but there's a whole different thing on here. Carolyn?
Everybody wants all the bells and whistles.
Okay, Renee's going with the same Roger thing. Well, everybody wants the bells and whistles, but there's something more that's a little bit new that wasn't the case 50, 60 years ago. Carolyn?
I said it's in your face.
It's in your face. See, the idea behind keeping up with the Joneses was somebody on your street. Okay? Somebody on your block, right? Like you live on a street and somebody down the street just got a new something. But on Facebook or Instagram or on the news or whatever, do you just know what the person down the street's doing? You know what everyone's doing, right? And so you have it in your face all the time. Hey, we just went on a cruise to Cabo? What is it? Cabo, what? Cabo. Okay, so we just but look, it's not just the neighbor down the street that you know took a cruise to Cabo, right? It's like I'm saying it wrong. What is it? Cabo. Cabo. Okay, it's like it's whatever, right? That place. Like, it's not just your neighbor that you know. It's even people you barely know, because how many people are you connected to in social media that aren't even like close to you, right? So you know what everybody's doing all the time. It just takes that idea and it just multiplies it, right? Because now even people you don't even know, you're like, well, because somebody shared something or this or that, or they commented, like, oh, well, everybody in the world is getting whatever, right? And so it feeds into this truth. But is Ecclesiastes 4:4, is that not true? That so much of your motivation, so much of your energy for pushing harder and doing more is just because you're trying to get what somebody else wants. Now, let's get to the Roger Renee thing, right? And, okay, so there's that one, right? And so I'm teaching the class, you guys got to go with what I want first. But then you have new technology is things, bells and whistles, Renee says, that are coming out all the time, right? Like, so somebody just said, like, there's a new iPhone 12 coming out soon. What? Oh, somebody else? Okay, all right. So, like, there's a new iPhone 12 coming out or whatever. Like, so you just got used to the 11, right? But now here comes the 12. So you better believe I'm gonna get rid of the 11 and I'm gonna go get the 12, because the 12 is gonna have 6 phones. I mean, 6 cameras, right? Because the 4 cameras or the 14 cameras in the 11 is not enough. Now you need a camera on the side of the other camera that does whatever. I don't know. You know what I mean? It's like yeah, you guys are spot on. That it just tempts you even more and more. But part of this thing is it's not just the product. It is the fact that someone else has that product and you don't. Okay. It's the spirit of competition gone out of balance. Okay. Remember, that's why I'm coming back to that word balance. What you have to do when you get the full scope of what Solomon's delivering in this book of Ecclesiastes is that our life needs to be kept in balance. So should we work? Yes, but should we work simply to keep up with somebody who's not even you? No. But how much of our energy is to keep up with someone else? Right? You were just fine until you saw, right? I mean, like, take Delano for a second. You were fine with your one palm tree. You guys know where I'm about to do with this, right? And then your neighbor had 28 palm trees, right? And 15 sagos, and it's like, okay, more palms. Like, you know what I mean? It's just like you were okay until and then now you got all this energy, not to do what's needed, but just to get more because somebody else got more. Yeah? Comments or questions about that? Ecclesiastes 4:4.
Sometimes it can be a suggestion, and it's a reminder to people that a lot of times it is competition. I was at a craft show one time, and the lady was saying, there's a man looking at me, he's watching me. And we were taking a break, she was eating an apple. And a few minutes later, he took out an apple and started eating.
Oh, okay. I thought Carolyn was gonna get real juicy, and there's this guy, he's checking you out. Like, he's over in the corner, he's staring at you like, oh no, he's staring at you. No, he's staring at you. You wink at him, right? No, she talked about apples. Oh, Carolyn, I was so into your story. But yeah, I know, right. Yeah, so like you guys are eating an apple, and then all of a sudden he's like, hey, I should eat an apple too. But there is a lot of truth to that. Like you were fine not eating until you saw somebody else eating, and then whatever. Even when we were kids, I don't know about you guys, because different generations, different people do different things. But when you brought lunch to school, right? You brought lunch to school. Like some of you have to Google this, but like we used to have lunch boxes, and like you'd have your favorite superheroes on there or whatever, but you take your lunchbox to school and you'd open up in the cafeteria with your friends, and then the first thing you did was compare what you got. Like, and here was the gold lunch when I was a kid was when somebody brought last night's frozen cold pizza. Oh man, when somebody, they opened and they had last night's cold pizza, and then you're looking at your like bologna sandwich, you're like, you want to trade? But that was the thing to be jealous of. Okay, but do we get this, right? We get this that a lot of our energy to go out there and work and do more and more is not because you really need it, and you may not even have wanted it until you saw somebody else have it. Then once you saw somebody else had it, now you're going. And he's saying that's vanity. That's vanity. That's meaningless. That's worthless, right? Don't let your energies and your motivations simply come from the spirit of competition with people that don't even know you. I'm going to screw this phrasing up, but there's some phrase with regards to money management that's something like, basically, people make themselves poor trying to look rich to people they don't even know, right? That it's said better like by whoever said it, but it's basically that. It's like you make yourself poor trying to look rich to impress people that you don't even know, right? So we just have to be really careful about that. That you're constantly looking around trying to say, well, man, I was fine with this until they got that, and then there you go. Okay. All right. Now, just look, same chapter, look at verses 7 and 8. Volunteer to read 7 and 8. Ecclesiastes 4, 7 and 8.
And then I saw something meaning less under the sun. Now the man all alone, he had neither son nor brother, there was no end to his toil, and his eyes were not content with his wealth. To whom am I totally, he asked, and why am I depriving myself of enjoyment? This too is meaningless and miserable business.
All right. Okay. So I'm gonna massage this conversation just a little bit. In verse 8, right? Verse 7 is very short, right? Okay. But verse 8, there's a question he says is not being asked. What is the question that's not being asked? Yes. Why am I working so hard? Okay. Why am I working so hard? Yes, you guys get that? To understand the point of verse 8 is to understand that question. So that he's saying that question is not being asked. Why is that question not being asked? It's just before what?
We all have to work hard.
Well, look at the verse.
He's
What?
not content.
He's not content. So look. Okay, listen to verse 8 one more time. One person who has no other either son or brother, right? So is this a person full of family and all that in their life? No, they're not, right? No son, no brother, right? This is a statement that says you're not connected to other people. Okay? Yet there is no end to all his toil, and his eyes are never satisfied with riches. Okay, sorry, I don't know if you guys, did you guys see that I have a little update thing right there? Okay, and you got to be careful when you're pushing updates because all of a sudden the whole thing shuts down and whatever, and then, okay, anyway, all right, okay, so what you see here is this person, right, this theoretical person is not connected to other people and is only connected to what? Well, okay, but his work. Right? Okay, so but and I'm serious. So let's you're right, Roger. No. But it's look at the language here. Yet there is no end to all his toil or work or labor or effort, right? Okay, and it's because he's pursuing riches. Okay, yes, right? Okay, so well, yeah, looking to find satisfaction in that, but there is no satisfaction in it. Okay, because we're gonna hopefully, Lord willing, we'll have enough time to get to this. But there's a balance that he's losing in this. He's working all day, every day to get more and more and more, which is why Roger talks about the riches part. But the key here is his effort never stops. And is it damaging his relationship with other people? Yes, you see, right? He's lost a connection to the humans in his life, brother, son, sister, whatever, because he's just working and working and working to get more and more and more. And Solomon says, what about that? It's meaningless. It's meaningless, right? And some of you remember Lewis Harker, um, but I only knew him as a senior citizen, right? And he would cut my hair back, when there was some, and and that was one thing that he was very clear about, and there was a sense of regret in his voice when he would say, "I wish I worked less and spent more time with my son." Right? Like, I wish I worked less, you know, and and how many people at the end of their life that's going to be their statement, right? Okay, because of the truth in this verse. You did all this to get a little more and a little more and a little more, and I forget the number, but there's some income level in America, and I could throw it out there. I'll be wrong if I did, but it's not outstanding. It's not super high. Um, and the belief is once you make over this income, whatever it is, it's I want to say it's 60,000, and that may be it, but it's something like that. Meaning it's not $1 million, it's not $100,000, but it's like 60,000 a year. Your life doesn't change substantially. Meaning, no matter how much money you make above that, your life really doesn't change. And here's what they mean by that: that at that income level, you can have a house that when it's hot outside, you can be cool inside, and when it's cool outside, you can be hot inside, like warm inside, right? And you can have a car, and you can have food, and all that. You get me, right? Because basically, the argument that that study is making is that everything above that is just extra. Like now it's, do you get a dollar cheeseburger at McDonald's, or do you get an $8 cheeseburger at Carl's Jr., right? Well, but you get the point. You get the point. So then the other question is, what am I sacrificing, right? What am I sacrificing for the pursuit of making a few more $1,000, whatever it is? What am I sacrificing, right? What am I sacrificing? And so when we talk about balance and getting out of balance, how many people fall into Ecclesiastes 4, 7, and 8? Right? We do all these things. It's one of the things that has always hit me with regards to the work I do, the arena I work, because there's so many people who use childcare. And does anybody know, is childcare expensive or not expensive? It's super expensive. And because I know a little bit about income levels based on jobs, and I think so I have a sense of how much childcare costs, though we don't use it. And I have a sense of how much people make based on the jobs they work. It's incredible how much money people spend to have a job only to have somebody else watch their kids, right? So somebody else is like with your kids more than you're with your kids, so that you can go make money for what? Right? To pay somebody else to watch your kids. You know what I'm saying? Like it's these kinds of things that he's saying. Remember, look at the question. This is the question that you need to have underlined. So that he never asks, right? The question that doesn't being asked is, for whom am I toiling and depriving myself of pleasure? Right? Like, why am I working so hard? Oh, and here's the answer that people will give. I'm working to do it for my kids. And then it's like, well, when do you spend time with your kids? Well, I don't, because I'm working. You see? Go ahead.
Some people say they do it because they're waiting for retirement.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes they end up dying early because they work so hard. And then other times they may feel sick or whatever, and they don't have the vigor of their youth to go out and actually enjoy themselves.
Yeah. So the item of I'm working so hard right now to save up for my retirement, right? To save up for my retirement. Okay. So with all this COVID stuff, it's come out like 1,000 times life expectancy, and it's actually lower. Your normal human American life expectancy is actually lower than I thought because it's like high 70s. I thought it was in the 80s already, but it's like high 70s or something. It's like, pick your statistic. But right now, the typical retirement age is what? 65, and um, if not real soon, pretty soon, I don't care who the next president is, it's going to get pushed to 70, right? Like they're that's easy. Okay, so the typical work life, right, is somewhere around 20 to 65. Yes, right. That's like the idea is you work 20 to 65. So that's how many years? 45 years. And let's say you retire at 65 and you die at 75. So some people will starve themselves of any enjoyment over 45 years with the idea that they're going to live it up between 65 and 75. And what Christine said is just spot on. And then your back's hurt and your neck hurts and you're on meds and you're this and you're that and you're tired and it's 6 p.m. and you're ready to go to bed. Like, okay, so like you starve yourself of all of this opportunity younger in life because you're saving it up for the end. And then not only, that's like the best case scenario. More likely is something tragic happens in your life and you die at 60 and you what? Right? See, and that's what from a wisdom standpoint, that's where Solomon is coming from. That to sacrifice all of the enjoyment in the present to look down the road. I'm going to give you another thing that we do. And you guys can push back on me because I don't like to take pictures. And you can say, well, I'm just saying this because I don't like to take pictures. But how often do we miss an experience in the moment because we were trying to take pictures of it and record it? So we miss it in the moment. And why do we take pictures and record it? So we can remember it, so we can see it down the road. But how many of you, be honest, how many of you have old video or pictures that you never look at? Okay, right? Like I get. Right? Yeah. So you have all this, I can just only imagine Roger thinking back to when the camcorders were these big gigantic things, on your. Oh, Roger still has one. Okay, because you may use it someday. Who knows, right? Okay, right. Okay. Yeah. But we have all of this that we invest, like gotta take pictures, gotta do all this because we need to remember this. As opposed to using the God-given picture, which is your eyes recording it in your brain and you remember the moment because you experienced the moment and didn't just take a picture. Yeah, right. And now again, is it bad to take pictures and record? No. You understand? Like there is a balance to this, but sometimes we just need to just enjoy the moment, right? Just like let's just enjoy the moment. I think it's interesting with young people and their engagement stuff now because everything's like setting up the video and the recording of it, like, right? Well, yeah, it's so that you can capture it. Well, I think at least historically, it used to be part of the excitement or the cool nature of an engagement, would you marry me, was just the sheer surprise, right? It was just like, oh, you know what? Yeah, that it was spontaneous. And now it's like, okay, no, I have to tell you that how we're going to do this because you need to do this and remember to wear that, honey. And so I'm going to like pull a ring out and they're going to pull and it's going to be awesome. Just don't fall off the cliff, right? But what? Yeah, you got to say yes. Okay, let's get this pre-approved here, right? But again, the point becomes like, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? And sometimes, here's the key. Sometimes we're sacrificing the joy in the moment because we're looking down the road at something. And then the question becomes, but why am I doing that? And we need to ask ourselves, why am I doing that? Why am I doing that? Is this license to be lazy? No. His point isn't we shouldn't work. His point isn't that we shouldn't provide and that we shouldn't have things. His point is be mindful of why you're even doing it and don't fool yourself into thinking you're doing it for a reason that you're not really doing it. Okay? I'm doing this for my kids. No, you're not, because you don't even spend time with your kids. You're doing this so that you can look better here. You're doing this so that you can, you know, right? So, yeah. All right. Boy, am I? Yeah. Okay. Yes, please.
I was just thinking about, well, I was privileged, I think, to grow up with a dad that had a job where I was always with him. A
Mhm.
lot of the times, growing up as a kid, he would take me with him and stuff. That's how I spent my time with my dad.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can't do that nowadays. You can't take your kid to where God. I would have had all my kids with me, you know?
Right. Right. Yeah. No. No. Times change, and so especially in a place like California.
That's how we found the balance. That's
Yeah.
how I spent that balance with it.
Yeah.
We didn't do very much,
Mhm.
you know.
Mhm.
I mean, it was just always work, 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 and then in December we went to Mexico.
Right.
Come back, same thing. Work, 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 work. Save up that money, go to Mexico.
Right.
And
Well.
I
Yeah.
did that all the time. You know, but it was, you got so used to doing it.
Well, yeah, yeah. So there used to be this picture that I saw at work. It was like a EDD picture, and it showed like a child, um, like looking like they're at the fields in the fields, you know, and it was like that's the worst thing. This poor victim child. And what's interesting about that is it's so misleading because for many children, going and working alongside their parents in the fields, I mean, it wasn't like slavery. You know what I mean? And you worked. You like it was family, right? It was family. What?
You learned a lot of, a lot of different things that happen, when you're there. It's not something that you read at home, experience.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. So the preference now, would be to never let your kids work with you, because that's better for them. And yet you just don't spend time with them because a very typical scenario in many people's homes is they go to school all day, you go to work all day, you stop by at the fast food place for dinner, like you pick it up, you eat, they go do homework, you go do whatever you do, watch Netflix or whatever you do, and then you go to bed and then you do it again. And what doesn't happen is any time of real interaction of any, it's like one of the things that I was talking to Tyler about yesterday is, like my daughter plays softball. There's a ton of parents who you would think could connect to their kids over a sport, but what they do is they work really hard to make money to pay for somebody else to coach their kid, right? They pay for private lessons and private travel teams and all this stuff. And so they work really hard to pay for things so that somebody else can spend that time with their kid. Does it make sense? And you're just like there, So we just want to be mindful of that. What am I working for? What am I working towards? And am I sacrificing the personal stuff just to make a few extra bucks, right? Okay. All right. So I'm gonna massage my verses here a little bit because I want to show you some verses that run together a little bit. So go back to chapter 2. Go back to chapter 2. And I need somebody to read 3 passages. We're gonna read them back to back to back, and then we'll talk about them because it's got one similar theme. So somebody read chapter 2, verses 24 and 25. Okay.
There is nothing better for a person than that he should eat and drink and find enjoyment in his toil. This also I saw is from the hand of God. For apart from him, who can eat or who can have enjoyment?
All right. Okay. You guys see the eating and drinking piece? Okay. All right. Go over to chapter 7. I'm sorry, chapter 9, excuse me, please. And if somebody will read verse 7.
Go then, eat your bread in happiness and drink your wine with a cheerful heart, for God has already approved your works.
All right, very good. And if you'll back up, because this we're doing that one, and then we're going to do this one because this is the one we're going to stay on. And if somebody would read chapter 8, verses 14 and 15. So just back up just a little bit in chapter 8, 14 and 15. Okay.
There is a vanity that takes place on earth, but there are righteous people to whom it happens according to the deeds of the wicked, and there are wicked people to whom it happens according to the deeds of the righteous. I said, this also is vanity, and I commend it joy, for man has nothing better under the sun but to eat and drink and be joyful. For this will go with him in his toil for the days of his life that God has given him under the sun.
All right, all right. So do you guys see the theme in these verses? What's the theme in these verses for anybody who does see it? Yeah, enjoyment. Like take some time and enjoy it. So in English, in America, we have this phrase, stop and smell the roses. Yeah, right? Stop and smell the roses. Like, what you can tell that Solomon's pushing back against is this idea that all you should do is work. This isn't, again, him saying don't work. He's just saying take some time and enjoy the fruits of your labor, right? You work hard, but take some time and actually enjoy it, because quite often, especially think of when Solomon's writing this, that would not have even been the thought, right? That would have not have even been in the mind. You know, we have labor law, right, in America, lots of it, okay? And a lot of it was driven around forcing people to work less, right? So think the typical work schedule, like when we think full-time work is what?
8 hours a day, 40 hours a week.
Okay, 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week, which is 5 days a week, right? Okay. And so we have sort of built into our lives a weekend, even if you don't always do that, right? Like somebody maybe their days off, maybe Tuesday, Wednesday, or whatever. But it's this idea in our law that basically says you shouldn't work all the time. Yes, right? Why does it have to be law? Yeah, because it's the same reason God had the Sabbath for the Jew. Because otherwise you would work all the time. Because here's our mindset. Our mindset becomes, if I work one more day, I'll make one more dollar and my life will be better because of it. If I work one more day, I'll make one more dollar and my life will be better because of it. And that's just not true. More money does not actually mean a better life. And Solomon, having had all the money, yes, and all the girls and all the houses and he said, it's still vanity. You're just chasing what? Chasing the wind. You're chasing something you're never going to grasp. You're going to just keep thinking, I'm one more promotion at work from happiness. I'm one more raise from enjoyment. I'm one more, and I just one more, and you're not going to. You're never going to. I want to just say one last thing, and then I'll take whatever comments, questions we have as we wrap this up. But I think about this from a sports example, right? So if you follow sports right now at all, you may not, because a lot of people in America are not, but let's just say you are. The Lakers are one win away from like their 17th championship. What, okay, right? 17, 19, 17, whatever, right? A lot. A lot. And so if you're a Laker fan, especially if you're an older Laker fan, you watch them win year after year after year after year. And guess what you want this year? You want them to win again. And guess what you're going to want next year? To win again. Like, you're never going to be satisfied. You're never going to be satisfied. And so much of our life is just like that. One more, one more, one more. And Solomon is saying, guess what? I won 28 championships in a row. Still meaningless. Still meaningless. Because in the 29th year, I wanted to win again. Like that's the point. So that's what I'm saying. There's so much here that is about balance. This message isn't don't work. This message is work, but work for purpose. And don't let your purpose be to just outcompete. Remember 4-4? Don't let your purpose be to just outcompete someone else. Work so that you can have some things, right? I want a house. I want a car. I want to be able to take a vacation every once in a while. I want to be able to provide for my family and kids, and I want to be able to eat a cheeseburger every once in a while. Whatever. Like I want, and that's okay. Do you get it? Like that's okay. 9:7, that verse we just read real quick, 9:7, that's basically it. Like, yeah, like do some things that are married to your heart every once in a while. But don't be consumed by that. Don't be consumed by that because it's worthless. It's vain. It's vanity. It's meaningless. Comments, questions, comments, questions. Comments, questions. Yes, yes. So Ida, when you talk about contentment, I'm trying to be disciplined myself and stay in the book of Ecclesiastes. But especially if you're unfamiliar with this, 1 Timothy 6, 1 Timothy chapter 6 is a good chapter to study from the New Testament in conjunction with this. Because it's in 1 Timothy 6 that we hear godliness with contentment is great gain. For we brought nothing into this life, and we will certainly not take anything out from this life, which will be part of your sermon here in just a minute. It's also in 1 Timothy 6 that you get where we're told the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. And because of it, meaning because people love money, and he goes on to talk about because they pursue riches, they've caused themselves so much pain and hardship, right? Fallen into traps. So 1 Timothy 6 is a great New Testament chapter to marry alongside this idea of our toils and the riches that we'll talk about here in just a little bit. Great, great. All right, so with that, we'll close. We'll get ready for worship, and we'll check back in for you guys on Zoom. We'll check back in with you in just a little bit.